Welcome to Innovation Israel, the show that brings you the latest news and cutting-edge achievements directly from Tel Aviv, the heart of the Startup Nation. On today's show, we'll talk about how you can become a part of the Startup Nation's success. And we'll meet startups Teridian and MyPace. But first, a few headlines out of Israel. After the Israeli-made Bereshit lander failed to land on the moon, its creators are now setting their sights elsewhere in the universe for a second attempt. SpaceIL, the nonprofit that funded Bereshit's journey to the moon the first time around, has announced that going to the moon again isn't enough of a challenge. But for now, they still haven't announced where they're planning to head to next. The US-based Firefly has been selected as one of 9 companies that NASA chose to take part in the CLPS, or Commercial Lunar Payload Service, an initiative to start delivering equipment, cargo, experiments, and more to the moon. Dr. Tom Markusik, CEO of Firefly, explained how they want to use IAI's Bereshit technology and experience to do it. In a statement, Markusik said that this agreement with IAI will allow Firefly to build on our own momentum and expand our lunar capabilities by creating a US-built version of IAI's historic lander. Adding that having access to flight-proven lunar lander technology and the expertise of IAI engineers makes Firefly well-placed to gain a foothold in the lunar market. Firefly will also pay homage to the source by calling their new version of Bereshit Genesis, Bereshit's English translation. And Firefly will, of course, need to construct the rocket that will take Genesis to the skies. So the final product may still take some time because while the company has designs to create one called Beta, Alpha, Firefly's first rocket, has yet to even take off for its test run later this year. We've all heard of the Startup Nation's success. Every week on this show, we bring in some of Israel's most innovative startups. Well, have you ever wanted to take part in their success, to invest in these groundbreaking startups who are at the cutting edge of modern-day tech? Well, actually, you can. And my next guest will show you how. Exit Valley is one of the most successful investment platforms in Israel, allowing anyone and everyone to invest in attractive startups, become shareholders, and take part in the Startup Nation's success. So joining me in the studio now is Yaniv Shilion, CEO of Exit Valley.
Thank you.
Welcome. Let's jump right in. Tell me about Exit Valley. What exactly do you do?
So basically with Exit Valley, we started it with an idea to allow everyone to invest in the Startup Nation. So your opening was exactly what we wanted to say. We realized that a lot of the regular people, the day-to-day, not professional investors, they don't have the opportunity to participate in Startup Nation. So we all hear about great exits, an IPO, things like that, but we're not involved in it. Maybe our mutual fund is part of it, but we don't actually take part, either if we are the founder of the startup, but most of us not. So the idea was to allow everyone to invest in small amount of money, not huge amount, not $500,000. We do a minimum ticket of usually $10,000. So you go into the platform, you see different startups, it changes every month. And you can decide what type of company you like, what type of solution they have, and you actually decide where you want to invest. It's a medical device, it's water pollution, education tech. Everyone can choose what he wants. And the number of campaigns and the startups that we raise for changes from time to time. Most of the startups is what we call early stage company, which means that they already raised the first amount of money from friends and family. They did the product, they tested it, they did what we call the proof of concept. They have some clients, but now they need to grow. And they need the first money to start showing the numbers. What is the number of users they do, how they can grow before they go to the more professional investors, which are VCs, angels, and stuff. So basically, it's a kind of intermediate between starting a startup and going to the professionals. And that makes a lot of sense for everyone you can help startups to grow, but they're not big enough for a VC or something like that. So it's a match for everyone.
Now, there's a lot of risk involved in investing in startups. Who chooses the startup? Who vets them, for example?
Okay, so we see on a monthly basis about 50 startups. And eventually about 5 to 6 goes into the platform. So there's a good filtering. And the last stage, what we do what we call a vetting. We allow the current investment community that we have to look at the companies that we see first. And if they say we're interested, then it go live. And if they are, and each one of the people that we're working with are from different fields. So you can be an algorithm people, you can be a lawyer. So everyone looks at it from a different angle. And if there's a wide agreement that it's interesting, then it goes live to Exit Valley.
And you've had some big successes. Can you tell us about how much money you've raised this past year or in general? And what are some of the big companies that you've secured investments for?
Okay, so as I said, we're starting from early stage companies. They're raising $500,000 to $1 million. So we are operating in the past 3 years. So there's not a lot of success that you can measure. It takes more time for a startup to grow into a $1 billion company. So we have some small exits with companies that are being acquired by a US company. We have one company that went public into the Australian Stock Exchange, things like that. And we see a lot of the startups are growing. As I said, they do the jump. They go from seed level, early stage, to round A, which is the big round. So we have a company now that raised 10 million already. And the valuation jumped 10 times on what we raised for them. So the investors didn't get money yet, but they see the potential, they see where they're growing.
Now, why should someone invest through you, for example, and not go directly to, let's say, Kickstarter or Indiegogo or the other crowdfunding platforms out there?
So actually, if you look at what we do, you said it's an investment platform.
Right.
So usually when you go to crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, you actually buy a product that might be delivered and might not a year from now, and you're just helping the entrepreneur to do the product and get it developed. But you actually don't hold any shares. So if 10 years later, 5 years later, Facebook acquires the company, you get nothing. Maybe you got the product. With Exit Valley, the whole idea is to allow you to participate in small amounts, as I said, $10,000, and actually get shares in the company. So as the company grow, and if eventually they'll do an exit, you're part of it like a professional investor. So that's the big difference between Kickstarter, Indiegogo, which is like a donation type of investment, which is not an investment actually, into real getting shares in the company.
Okay, now if somebody wants to invest through you, how do they do that? Do you have a website that they can go to?
Yeah. We have a website. The website, we are an Israeli platform. The focus of Exit Valley is Israeli innovation. But investors, we're getting investors from worldwide investors. We have a lot of Australians, US, and others. We're working based on the different regulation that each country has. And you go into the website, just register. Based on your country, there's limitation what you can see, how much money you can invest, things like that. And then you just choose the specific startup that you have interested. If you're a doctor, you think that this is the right product for the next exit, you invest in that. If you are something else, you do something else.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
We've all most likely had problems at home with the internet, but that's on a very small scale. Imagine now multinational enterprises which have to provide excellent performance for their customers no matter where they're located, sometimes thousands of miles away. This is a challenging task to say the least, but luckily one company, Teridian, has developed an innovative solution, almost like a Waze for the internet. And here to tell us about it is Pej Roshan, VP of Products and Marketing at Teridian. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So what exactly does Teridian do?
So if you think about the internet as a network to connect businesses together, many cases the internet is a best effort service, meaning if the traffic that you send from your home, from your business to a particular application or to another site, it's really as good a quality as the internet can provide is what you're going to get. There's no guarantees in performance. What we do is offer what's called a cloud-based WAN service for enterprises. Now, I can tell by your expression that may sound like a little bit of jargon. And essentially what we're delivering is secure, reliable, high-performance internet connectivity for enterprises. And that helps them get good connectivity and performance, let's say doing backups or file transfers between their sites. If they're accessing cloud applications, for example, maybe storage files that are running in Amazon or on Dropbox or Google, the Google Drive, something along those lines, we'll be able to get high performance throughput and connectivity there. There's a lot of applications that are called real-time applications, like video conferencing, where the interaction that you have with another person is going through an application that's running somewhere hosted in the public cloud. And in that case, if there's a lot of delay or round-trip duration, it becomes kind of an off-kilter,
Right.
disjoint experience. We'll provide a really fast, what we would deem a low latency and low loss connection, so that you can actually have a real-time audio call or video conferencing call using our service over the internet.
I understand. And can you give us some examples of some of the clients that you're working with today?
We generally work with very large SaaS application providers. So a good example would be Box.net, Atlassian, Ignite, some financial service providers like Merrill or Donnelley Financial Services. And recently, we've moved into the enterprise with looking at enterprise customers like Cohesity would be a good example of a large multinational company.
And when you say SaaS, just to clarify to our viewers, software as a service companies.
That's correct. So a good example of software as a service is, instead of running an application on a server in a server room inside of an enterprise or in a data center, it's hosted somewhere in a data center that might be delivered from Amazon or from a data center that's private but not running on the enterprise's premise or wiring closet.
Okay, so maybe we can talk a little bit about the tech itself, how exactly you provide a solution to this problem.
That's a good question. So the challenge with networking at its core is routing. It's how does a packet that leaves your router at your office or your home find its way to the application and back. And for the last 30 years, that's been the protocol that powers the internet is called BGP, the Border Gateway Protocol. It's a fantastic protocol. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, but it's not using elements like performance to do its job. It basically is opening up a map the way we would back in the 80s. It's finding a path and it's really leveraging that path, but a map doesn't have any elements of like traffic jams. You don't see that. You did a nice comparison comparing us to Waze. With Waze, we can see where there's traffic and we can find the better route to get somewhere. That's what Teridion is doing. We're measuring the performance of the internet, and based off of those measurement reports and performance reports, we'll find the best way to route traffic across the internet to the destination and back. And so we can get really consistent, reliable performance that enterprises need as they're relying on the internet more and more because of those SaaS applications.
Now, we're all relying on the internet more and more people are connecting to the internet. Is this going to become a major problem down the road?
I believe it's a major problem today. In many cases, if you talk to somebody that does any type of voice communications or video conferencing, we've all run into the Mr. Roboto syndrome where voice becomes choppy and pixelated sounding, where that's a good example of poor internet performance impacting an application. That could be something that happens to us as consumers using something like Skype or WhatsApp. And we generally, as consumers, will tolerate it because we're not paying for the service. But when it's an enterprise application and you're conducting business, a sales call, you're collaborating with peers that are all over the world, it becomes problematic. For retailers that are doing credit card transactions that used to go over very expensive telco circuits like MPLS that are now switching over to the internet to save cost, they want to make sure those transactions are getting to those banks and that money is deposited in as timely a fashion as possible. So we have this saying that the internet is the new local area network. The internet is the new LAN, and with Teridion, we make that a business-grade service.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you may have heard of electric cars, but have you heard of electric planes? Well, Israeli startup Eviation wheeled out a battery-powered 9-seater airplane at the Paris Air Show recently. Israeli startup Eviation has recently launched a battery-powered 9-seater airplane at a Paris air show. And the plane, nicknamed Alice, is due for its first flight test later this year. The aircraft has a flattened profile and propellers at its wingtips, and it was designed as an electric plane from the beginning. Further, this comes just in time, as European finance ministers are discussing ending tax exemptions for aviation fuel in order to cut greenhouse gas emissions, especially since carbon emissions from aviation account for 2.5% of the global total and are expected to rise as the global middle class grows in size. Unlike cars, however, electric planes are limited by the fact that they have to carry their batteries into the air, and the heavy weight of the batteries means that as of now, electric airplanes are very small and only travel short distances. For example, on a single battery charge, Alice can fly just up to 650 miles, while maintaining a cruising speed of 276 miles per hour. Alice comes as a response to increased pressures to create green alternatives to air travel. And in 2005, the air travel industry pledged to cut carbon emissions by 50% by 2050. However, the leadership has been opposed to cutting flights. So instead, engineers are looking towards electric hybrids for hope, because they can combine downsized engines with an electric boost in order to save approximately 30% of fuel use. And that brings us back to Eviation, which has also disclosed that Cape Air, a Massachusetts-based regional carrier, has now taken an interest in adding Eviation planes to its fleet at about $4 million each. Nowadays, most people have turned to online shopping. It has tremendous advantages, allowing merchants to reach customers from all over the world. But it also has some drawbacks for merchants, as people tend to throw lots of items into their shopping cart only to either abandon it or realize they don't have sufficient credit to make the purchase. Well, that's where my next guest comes in. MyPays is a loan exchange presenting a shopper with multiple lender offers to finance their shopping carts. And here to tell us more about it is Ashel Ben David, CEO of MyPays. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So what exactly does MyPays do?
Well, it comes to solve a major pain point for merchants, both online and offline. Merchants today, for tickets of over $250, lose about 30% of their revenues at the checkout. This is very frustrating. Someone paid for the traffic, someone made a compelling offer. The customer showed their intent to buy, and then they abandon. Sometimes they even give you the credit card, and then they abandon because they have insufficient funds. Just to give you the numbers, loss of shopping carts for the lack of funds after the credit card is 8% of revenues. In Amazon alone, this is $11 billion loss of revenues. Huge numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's very difficult to solve because most people, their lack of funds is momentary. They can solve it, but they can solve it tomorrow morning. They can't solve it right now when they're trying to buy something. If they need to solve it tomorrow morning, perhaps they won't return. We've lost the sale. What we do is at the moment of relevance, exactly there when they're at the point of sale, they need to make a decision, we give them an alternative. The alternative is a small loan. It can be a loan for $1,000, it could be a loan for $5,000, it can be a loan for $10,000, things that you shop online. It's not a mortgage, okay? Yeah. You get an offer from local lenders. So if you're in the US, you'll get an offer from US lenders. If you're in Germany, you'll get an offer from German. And if you're in the Czech Republic, you'll get an offer from Czech lenders. And you get multiple lenders. You don't need to do the shopping. You know, the shopping is already there. You choose the best one or the one that fits your appetite best. You choose it. It takes about 20, 25 seconds. That's it. You're financed, ready to go. Money goes directly to the merchant, and you've paid. And then next month, your account gets charged for the monthly installment.
Okay, simple enough.
Yes.
And I see you brought a laptop here to show us exactly how it's done.
Here's a website that sells cameras. I'll just take you through it, okay? You press, you want to buy this camera. For every item online that is worth over $250, our button of financing available for this item appears immediately here, and you can start your lending process from here. But let's say you still don't know that you need financing. You add this to the cart. You're directed directly to the checkout in this specific site. Let's say I filled my billing information here. This is the 30% mark where people abort. Now, if you gave me your credit card and it got refused, instead of saying, look, your credit card is refused, we can't process your purchase. Instead of doing that, we say your credit card got refused. but there's financing available for this item. Okay. If you're a recurring customer, then we're implemented just like a credit card or PayPal. We're just another payment mechanism, right? And then the magic happens. Our servers are being called, and what you're seeing here is the Czech Republic installation. You'll be prompted to add some information about yourself here and choose the number of installments that make sense to you. And then what we do is we send all of this data back to the lenders. This is a Czech Republic installation. You'll see Czech lenders here. But for instance, the Czech sites told us we have many German purchasers, many German customers. Now, Czech lenders cannot give loans to German customers. What we do is we bring German lenders to the exchange. So German lenders will lend money to German shoppers buying in Czech sites, right? It's really international. And what you see here is 3 different loan offers. You can choose one of them. Okay, you go to the disclosure page, you sign the contract, you give some kind of ID, that's it, you paid. The loan is up, money went directly to the merchant, everybody's happy. Not only everybody's happy, our chairman of the board, Professor Yaron Zalika, he was the general accountant of the state of Israel. When he saw this, he says, hey, I teach this in the academy, because this system has network externalities. Network externalities means that all of the people who participate profit more as many more people participate. So the lenders make more money if there are more lenders there, and the merchants make more money if there are more merchants there, and of course the shoppers as well. So everybody's happy. We're this kind of company that, although we get paid, everybody's very happy to pay us because we bring value to all the participants.
Sounds like a very innovative solution to a very common problem.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank the amazing startups who joined us today. And remember to like us on Facebook at Israel English News, on Twitter at ILTV News, and visit us on our website at iltv.tv. I'm Ladar Gaveh-Lazi. Thanks for watching.